Hello and welcome to On the Bench, episode 12. Well, folks, we've had some major software and hardware issues trying to get this episode out. As you'll see in the first segment, which is What's New, part of it's been clipped. But I hope that doesn't spoil your enjoyment, and glad that you're with us and hope you enjoy the rest of the show. In this episode, we're going to be looking at the year in review and also going to have a talk about scratch building. As well as that, we have our usual segment on What's New. On the Bench is a podcast for modelers by modelers. So if you build aircraft, ships, tanks, sci-fi or space subjects, this is the podcast for you. On the Bench is available on iTunes and now on Stitcher. So go right to your favourite podcasting app and mark us as your favourite so you never miss an episode. Also, don't forget to leave us a review. It helps other people find this podcast. Scale, which was used by the Finnish and Soviet air forces.
I had no idea Hasegawa did the I-153.
Well, it must be a new one then.
Must be.
So this is in 100 pieces. The kit's 100 pieces. And 148 scale should make a decent little kit, actually.
It's a tiny little kit.
Yeah. I think you need it in 148 scale to sort of get some real sort of detail out of it.
You've built an I-153, haven't you?
Yeah, I built I think it was Special Hobby.
Special Hobby?
Yeah, I think it was.
How did that go?
It was a challenge. Had to do a few fix-ups. They got the air scoop wrong. So I had to make my own air scoop and lots of photo etch interior and so forth. Never been a fan of their decals though.
I'm sure you would have built a Hasegawa version of the kit if there had been
It would
one.
have been a lot easier to build. At least the Hasegawa one to give you locating pins.
Well, that's true, yeah. Also from Hasegawa in 1/72nd scale, they're doing the Chinese J-15, which is used by the Chinese Navy. This is also a limited edition kit, and it comes with decal options for the Chinese People Liberation Army Navy carrier.
Liaoning?
Yeah, Liaoning. That's that carrier that they bought, and they said they're going to use it for a casino, and they turned around and... they turned around and actually used it as a real aircraft carrier. Zack Speed ZK891 limited edition 1/24th scale racing car. Formula One.
Yeah.
It was used in the 1989 Formula One season. And it comes with decal options for the Formula One championship for 1989. Zack Speed Racing Car number 35 and Zack Speed Racing Car number 34. Also, on 1/24th scale is a JTCC SOC BMW 318i limited edition. Again in racing. It looks quite pretty actually in its racing colours there. It was used in the All Japan Touring Car Championship, which apparently is one of the most prestigious races of the 80s and 90s. I don't know.
In Japan it probably was.
Over Japan it probably was, yeah. And also from Hasegawa, they're going to be doing Japanese Navy Airman set in 1/72nd scale. So for those of you who like putting some pilots in your models or having dioramas...
They look quite detailed for 72 scale too, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
If I'm not mistaken, those look very much like the figures that were in the flying boat that they released a while ago.
It probably is.
So you suspect just a rebox of the...
Yeah, it would be, yeah.
And last but not least, something that I still haven't really made up my mind with. They're doing...
Sorry.
They're doing a 54 centimetre Morsa Carl limited edition with the Happy Girls...
Happy Egg Girls.
Yes. So, for those of you who know what a 54 centimetre Morsa looks like, it's basically a big howitzer sort of on tracks that the Germans used. And this comes with a happy girl who looks extremely excited, sitting straddled across the gun, painted in a lovely colour of pink with a number of different flags sort of popping out. I don't know.
It's in the same vein as the Girls und Panzer sort of Japanese cartoon thing. You know, it's an easy way for them to rebox kits and sell them to a different audience.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's true.
It would be.
And finally, from Hasegawa, they got the MiG-25 RBT Foxbat in 1/48 scale. 170 pieces. And this is the reconnaissance version, being RB, reconnaissance version. So should
Comes
make a very
looks like
nice little kit.
Looks like it's got a big whopping drop tank underneath it too.
Yeah, they used to burn fuel like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So being a reconnaissance version, they did some longer legs on it.
Yep. Some nice badges on the nose too.
Yeah, it's got some nice decal option. Oh, the decals only come with one option. That's for the reconnaissance version, but I'm sure there'll be lots of aftermarket ones you could use and
Yep.
find. The Russians built them big and rugged, didn't they?
Oh yeah, definitely.
From AK Interactive, they're releasing in 1/24th scale a number of sets that will be used in garage scenes for cars. So they've got a garage box set that's going to have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different styles of rubbish bins, or garbage bins for those of you who are on the other side of the world, perhaps. An American payphone in 1/24th scale.
Yep. They got a soda machine.
A fire hydrant, 2 different styles of fire hydrant, US models. Some extinguisher boxes and can sets.
Yep.
And I think that's about it. They're talking about releasing, or they are releasing, an ultra gloss varnish, which contains a 60ml bottle of thinner and 60ml bottle of lacquer, and the lacquer and the hardener and 2 syringes. So I've never really used the AK.
Looks like they're going in the way of gravity colours.
Continuing on with some of the paint stuff that AK are releasing. They're releasing red and blue interior colours, more aimed at the car market, I think.
Yep.
And then further down, they're talking about yellow, brown and grey interiors, again for car interiors. And also they've got a colour box set for black interiors with cream and white.
Nice.
So stay tuned for more information.
Lots of good
on
stuff
that.
coming out for the car modelers.
Oh, Lionel. So you've started a trend, Ian.
Oh, no, not really, mate. Just jumped on the bandwagon.
From Revell, we have the announcement of their new releases. They're doing a German staff car, the Cadet K38 Saloon, which is in 1/35th scale. Approximate part numbers 129. Should make a great little diorama for an airfield set.
Yeah.
In 1/72nd scale, they're releasing a T6G Texan, part count 49. And that'll make a nice little... Actually,
it looks like an older kit. It's got raised panel lines.
I'm just looking at that in more detail. I think you're right there, Ian.
Yeah.
So just a reboxing, I think.
Maybe a few extra parts on the new sprue.
In 1/24th scale, Revell are releasing the Porsche Panamera Turbo. Nice. Again, lots of car kits coming out at the moment.
Yeah, it's good to see.
Well, yeah, I guess so if you like car kits. And also an M109G self-propelled howitzer used by the German Bundeswehr.
It's in 72 scale
72 scale as well.
So big parts count for a 72 scale armour kit.
The parts count was around 172. You know, Revell are doing some really strange things, and yet looking at the next one that's just come up now, they're doing an A26B Invader in 1/48 scale.
Which would be a reboxing. That'd be the Revell monogram kit.
Having a look at some of the pictures that they got there, I can't see any raised panel lines, but...
Yeah, I can. Yep, it's got raised panel lines.
It's such a pity, isn't it?
Ah, it's all right. Get your scribing tool out, mate.
I don't scribe for no one.
It's very therapeutic, Dave.
Also releasing an SPZ Marder 1A3 in 1/35th scale. Parts count is 182. Really great looking little kit here, and I'm sure it'll feature well in some people's collections. And last but not least, they're releasing in 1/32nd scale an FG Phantom 2 Wild Weasel.
Cool.
Which they've got some pictures here of the sprue shots, and it looks like it's going to build a really nice kit. There's some detail there in the wheel wells and interiors, which you'd have to be at that scale anyway.
Yeah.
The cockpits certainly look great, and the decals look great, although perhaps some aftermarket bang seats wouldn't be a bad idea. But it's a great sort of starting position, isn't it?
Yeah, too true, Dave. Too true.
Next up, for Amusing Hobby, we have two very interesting tanks. These are two stupid super heavies that will please many of the world of tank lovers. So the first one's a Imperial Japanese Army experimental gun tank, the Ho-Rai, which is in 1/350 scale, 1/35th scale. Sorry, I've never heard anything about this. It must be something that was a paper tank and never sort of got into
it looks
production.
like they've got a wooden mock-up as a photo.
Oh, okay. And then,
Amusing Hobby tend to specialise in kits of paper tanks.
Paper tanks, yeah.
well, the next one's certainly going to get some interest as well, because they've got the Super Conqueror F214 Conqueror Mark 1 with spaced armour. This was a paper design for the British Army. It's in 1/35th scale with one resin figure included. And I think this was...
Yeah, early 57.
Yeah, early 57, which is interesting because they already had their... they were sort of well advanced already, the Brits, with the tanks that they had out. So obviously it must have been a design they were looking at. They actually built one.
Well, it looks like there's photos of one built.
Anyway, it's going to make a great little kit and a sort of what if for people who are interested in building armour from that era. And last but not least, Masterbox are releasing a new heap of science fiction figures. And these look really cool. They're all in 1/24th scale, and they've all been completely dedicated to the subject of space and science fiction. So, just scrolling through and having a look at some of the figures that are coming out, for those of you out there who like building kits and building in science fiction, you're going to have a real wow of a time with these. They just look absolutely beautiful little kits.
Very interesting.
I just wished I could do figures, because I'd be seriously tempted by a couple of these. But unfortunately, kits aren't my sort of thing. Figures aren't my sort of thing. I'm sure somebody out there will enjoy it.
Yeah, there's a market for everyone, mate.
It's interesting that one of the characters looks like... they have an artist's impression of what it'll look like when painted, but obviously it's up to you how you want to paint it. But I think it's almost a very close likeness to one of the characters from the recent Guardians of the Galaxy 2 movie.
Yes. Too true.
But it's one of those things where they often do figures like that, where they don't specifically say what they're ripping from, because otherwise they'd be up for copyright infringement.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's Andrea Miniatures do a whole line of figures.
Lots of companies do.
Yeah, like they do a Spider-Man called the Arachnid.
Could you just simply say inspired by?
Yeah,
that'd be
that's
enough
right,
to get you around the legal
well,
loopholes.
it depends. Everyone's after money, mate.
Absolutely. Okay, that wraps it up for What's New. Again, if you hear of anything, or you want us to look at something, or indeed you want us to even review something, drop us a line at onthebench64@gmail.com. We love hearing from you. So again, onthebench64@gmail.com. Coming up after a short break, we're going to be having a look at the year 2017 and just discussing what's been happening the last year. And we're back. So let's have a chat about the year 2017, guys, from a modelling perspective.
Oh, I mean, as in, what have I built? Surprisingly, not enough.
Yeah, you never build enough. None of us do.
No, I got too many projects. They're just stacking up. It's ridiculous.
Finish them, Julian. Finish them.
My year's been pretty quiet, obviously, because not having a build room yet, but the news is on the horizon. The slab has been poured for my new house.
Yay.
So coming into 2018, I'm pretty excited about moving to a new studio and having a new build room. But I've actually purchased a few kits still this year.
Yeah, well, that's the one thing that doesn't stop.
No, I've got myself an Airfix Lightning in 1/72 scale.
Yep.
Kinetic Mirage in 1/48 scale. I got the Destroyer from Showcase Models, the Voyager.
Voyager, yes.
Yeah.
No, the Vendetta.
Vendetta, that was it.
Vendetta.
Yeah. As well as that, book-wise, I've only bought one book this year, and that is Wings Over the Malvinas, which talks about the air war in the Falklands from the Argentine point of view. I got put on this book. There's another podcast I listened to. It's called Extended. It's a show about aircraft. And they did a 4-parter about the air war in the Falklands. And the first 3 parts are from the British point of view. And the last part was from the Argentine point of view. And I thought, I just have to get this book. So it hasn't arrived yet in time for Christmas, so unfortunately you have to wait. It'll be another couple of weeks before it gets here, I think.
Yeah, I'd say so, Dave, yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to that as a good read. It's, I think we're 35th anniversary now, aren't we?
You'd be close.
Yeah, 35th anniversary this year, because it was in 82 from memory of the war.
Mm.
So that's all I've got really for this year. I know, Ian, you've been prolific building this year.
Oh, I wouldn't say prolific. I've got a few down.
You got a few down.
Yeah, did a few figures.
Yeah, you did quite a lot of figures, actually.
Yeah, a Bronco 37mm US anti-tank gun.
Yeah.
Which was so over-engineered for such a small thing. I think that's typical of Bronco.
Oh, this is not simplified.
Yeah, well, that too. Yep. Built a few car kits.
You got a lot of car kits out this year.
I've been purchasing a few.
Yeah.
I've only built 2. Actually, 1. I built 1, sorry, 1.
I thought you had 2 under your belt.
One was built previously. I just had to clean it up.
Oh, so it was a rebuild.
No, not really. Just clean up.
Okay.
Just clean it down and give it another clear coat.
Yep.
But yeah, and currently working on the Wyvern. Once that's done, I'll hook into me. I recently purchased an ICM 135th scale Model T from the Australian Light Car Patrol.
Well, nice.
So I'll hook into that next.
Model T's used in the desert in World War One.
Correct. Correct, mate. Yes, they had 6 of them. They all had interesting names, and yeah, it should be a nice little bit. It looks really nice kit.
So what were they used for? Just reconnaissance?
Reconnaissance and chasing down this band of jihadists that were on Camelback, because they found the British camel troops just weren't up to the task of chasing down the Arab camel troops. Because the Arabs have been doing it for thousands of years and the British haven't.
Yep.
So someone come up with a bright idea, well, why don't we use cars? And originally I think they had a couple of Rollses and a few other brands of cars, but they kept breaking down and parts were too hard to find. And then someone come up with the idea, well, Henry's making a ton of cars a year. Why don't we use some T models? And they were actually quite successful.
Bulletproof car.
Pretty much, yeah.
You know, in comparison to today's standards, obviously, you know, the wheels and the suspension is pretty flimsy, but geez, that motor just kept going and going.
It would have,
yep.
Would have been a hard ride too.
It would have been a very hard ride. And imagine operating in the desert, in the stony part of the desert too. You would have gone through a lot of tyres.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any books on those particular cars?
I did find online there's a book on the Australian LCP, first Australian LCP group, and I'll probably order that in the next few days. It's just shy of $50 Australian, but it looks to be quite a good book.
I'm looking forward to that build and seeing how it progresses, actually.
That kit has a Lewis gun mounted on it, doesn't it?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, it's got like a Y-shaped holder for the Lewis gun.
Yeah, I think that'd be a bit better than firing a rifle from Camelback.
Yeah, exactly, Julian.
Julian, so how's your year been?
I haven't bought many kits lately. It's actually been a lull period in my purchasing, but I've been building a number of Warhammer figures, and now that I've gotten that sort of out of the way, well, I shouldn't say out of the way. I've still got like another 30 figures to go, but no, I want to sort of come back to my aircraft and my armor kits. I want to get like a bunch of armor kits out of the way, and I'd like to start on something else aircrafty. Maybe the Tamiya Wildcat that I've got there. I've got the.
They're a beautiful little build.
Yeah, and I also got the Swordfish with the photo etch upgrade set that Tamiya made for it. Yeah,
you're gonna love the photo etch.
Yeah, I also bought the Tamiya Storch.
That's a nice kit.
Yeah,
that's a
I know
nice
because I
kit.
screwed one of them up once before. Yeah, that was earlier on, like a few years ago when I was much worse and didn't really know that super glue could fog windows, and that was terrible.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So with your Warhammer stuff, I mean, you say you got about 30 figures still to build.
Yeah. So what happened was they have this big box set for people who wanted to start out, and it was such good value for money that when a friend expressed an interest in it, I said, "Oh, well, let's go halves on it." And so he took one half, and I took the other, and so I've got all these. I got like 30 figures in it, and incredible value for money. Like so good that you could almost look at it and go, yeah, even if you were going to throw away half of the box, it would still be good value for money. That's how.
Yeah,
which is really surprising for Games Workshop.
Yeah,
considering their prices.
It's because they're trying to hook people into the hobby.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, they're like the drug dealer.
Yeah,
the first one's free.
Yeah. and then if you bought any of the little items in it individually, it'd cost you like a fortune.
I know. I remember when I was doing it years and years ago. It was just stupidly expensive.
Yeah. But the one thing I got to take my hat off to these war games, not just the World of Warcraft and all that sort of stuff, or Warhammer, I should say.
Yeah, Warhammer.
They're such prolific sort of painters, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, like, because you got the builders, like the people who play the game, and you got the people who paint, and there's some amazing painters out there. There really is, but you can't afford to paint to that level for an entire army. Otherwise, you get burnt out after the first little squad of dudes, wouldn't you?
You would.
Like one painter I've been paying attention to lately. He said he had one figure there that I actually have in the set that I got, and he finished it. And he said there's at least 16 hours in that one little 25mm figure.
So it's not something you could build.
No.
Yeah, if you're trying to get an army together.
Yeah, well, like I said, I got a starter box, and that's got like 30 figures for me, and there's another 30 for the other guy. When we're halves on, and if you're spending 16 hours for 30 figures, it's like, come on.
So what figures did you get in this starter box, Julian?
He got the Space Marines, and I got the Nurgle Plague Marines, as they're called. All sort of corrupted looking
snot
soldiers. Marines. Yeah. Yeah, they got little tentacles coming out of them. And
pus and... Yep.
Yeah, they're not pretty, but they are really cool to paint. There's a lot of detail that you can, hook into, a lot of interest.
And being, what are they, influenced by the god of pestilence or whatever it is?
Yeah.
You'd be able to really rust them up.
Oh, here we go with the rust again. Really, this subject of these figures can't come up without Ian mentioning the rust.
You've got to rust them up.
You got to weather them. You got to rust them
up. Yeah,
absolutely.
They're
corrosion.
They're grubby and they're goopy. I'll put a bit of slime and sort of looking stuff on there, and that's enough for me.
Yep.
So now that you got the figures, you tempted to sort of step into the wargaming area, or you just
if I end up like finishing the army, I'll give it a go. Why not? But
Geez, I have to pull the box set I've got hidden around somewhere at home.
Painted or unpainted, Ian?
Sorry?
Painted or unpainted?
Painted.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, from years ago. This is about 15 years ago, if not longer. Yeah. I went crazy on it.
I'll be the umpire.
You've had your finger in every modelling pie there is, isn't there?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Well, it's a way to do it, I reckon, because that way you're learning new skills, and you can transfer them skills onto your current build.
Yeah. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. I mean, like part of the reason I got into this was to sort of improve my brush painting skills.
Figure painting skills, yep.
Yeah, not just not. I mean, like I've got an interest in sort of going up to high levels of figure painting skills now because they just look so cool. Like some of the stuff that people do out there, with glazing and all these other kind of techniques and blending.
And if you look at like some of the garage kits, you can get like the large scale figures. There's some amazing figures out there to build.
Yeah,
there really is. There's some real talented sculptors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you're paying big bucks for some of these figures.
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of the really, really good painters out there also sculpt.
Correct.
Right. So, but obviously they make more money out of sculpting for other manufacturers than they do for painting them.
Yep. Too true, mate.
And of course, we would be remiss in not talking about this being our first season of doing this podcast as well, which has been a great lot of fun.
It has, yes. I've quite enjoyed every episode.
Today we got hit with some technical difficulties, so I've had to run some patch leads from here and there and try and figure out why we couldn't get any sound, but we've sort of managed to cobble it together, and the hamsters in the wheel busy running around, and so we're getting it out there, which is good. It's been phenomenal growth too. We've had about 35,000 people now.
35,000
downloads, all up. And it was up until episode 13, the Australian market was sort of leading the downloads, and the US market only overtook us on the last episode that we produced last fortnight. So the Americans are now sort of in the lead in regards to the download competition, if you want to look at it from that perspective.
It's great to hear from our American cousins.
Yes, it is. And it's funny, there's some regions in the US that seem to be more into the podcasting and listening to, or must be modelling. I don't know what it is.
Well, what I've heard is a lot of people actually listen to it while they're model building.
Yeah, there is that.
Like in the background running.
Yep. But it's like Philadelphia, for example, has a huge spike. So g'day to all those of you who live in and around Philadelphia. But there must be a huge little community out there that's really involved.
Yep.
Well, they may just have a very strong modelling community. I mean, Melbourne has quite a strong modelling community compared to the rest of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of the other ones that just come to mind. Oregon, over on the west coast of the US, that looks like to be a little hive of modelling activity out there. So g'day to all those of you who live out in Oregon. And I've actually driven through this beautiful state. I did a trip down from the border, Washington State, down through Oregon into California, and it was just an amazing bit of country down there. And they've got a fantastic air museum, Tillamook, I think it's called.
Right.
And it's in the US Navy used to have the dirigibles and the airships, and of course these old buildings are still left over. And there's
big hangar space by the sounds of it.
Huge. I mean, just the building alone blew me away. I couldn't believe the size of it.
Yeah, those things are massive. I believe there's one in Germany that's been converted into an indoor, what was it, either swimming pool, like indoor beach or something like that.
Well, the floor space, and I could well imagine how they could do that. So I happened to be driving along, and I just came across this museum by accident, and I pulled in, and the aircraft they got there. Oh, I was just drooling. I mean, they got P-38s there, they got Tomcats there, they've got you name it. And because they've got such a large sort of floor space, they can sort of all put it in, and you can just go right up and stand right up next to the aircraft. There's no sort of ropes or anything around it. And it's just in my element. I loved it.
Great.
That's awesome. And the other little group we got there is down in Texas. There's another large sort of spike there on the stats where in Texas people are listening to us over in the US. So very active modelling communities over there.
It looks like it is, yeah.
Yeah. And the UK is slowly catching up. They're about 10% of our audience. So the old mother country, we need to sort of...
Hi, guys.
We need to sort of get their stats up a bit. But it's just really interesting just having a look at where people are listening to us from. We've got a couple of people from Russia. There's some regular listeners out there in Sweden, China, Singapore, all around the world, wherever you... I think even South Africa is about the only one from the African continent. But it's just really interesting, and it just blows my mind, how much of a broad reach this podcast has got. And it's really tickles me pink when people sort of write in and say, "Oh, they got this wrong," and I'm happy to always take it, criticism or accept it. And other people suggested, well, perhaps you can do this with a podcast and you can do that, and we take those on board, don't we, guys?
That we do.
Yeah.
So it's been a really fun year, and we're certainly looking forward to moving forward into next year with another season full of podcasting.
Yes.
And got some interesting guests lined up. Hopefully we can get them in. So I know that's been another popular thing with our listeners, having some of our guests that we've heard from.
And the podcast will be doing live from the
Model Expo.
Model Expo.
Yes, yeah, very excited
Looking
about
forward to
that. So that'll be in June next year?
Yeah, I think it's around June.
May, June, Queen's birthday.
Queen's birthday weekend.
Yeah. So that'll be a lot of fun.
We'll get some good guests on that.
Oh, we
There's
shall.
a lot of good modelers at Melbourne Model Expo.
Yes, there are. All right, so that's pretty much the year in review. Unless you guys got anything else.
I have heard that like some of our listeners would like to hear more of the if you remember the Operation Unthinkable podcast that we did.
Yeah.
Some more historical sort of discussions.
Yeah,
we
it's
can do
funny. This is where you're caught between the rock and a hard place, because I had some people listen right back in saying,
Really?
I want less. Yeah.
Really?
So
Okay.
I'll tell you what, guys, how you listeners out there, how about you jump online and send us an email to onthebench64@gmail.com and let us know what you want to hear more of, or indeed even let us know what you want to hear less of. And we'll go from
Yeah,
there.
we can just cater to the listeners out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's going to be some shows where some people aren't interested in the subject.
Well,
and
Yeah, you got to cover all your bases.
Yeah,
I'm sure
exactly.
there are plenty of modelers out there that don't want to hear about my Warhammer figures.
what do you mean out there? There's some people in the studio who
Burn.
All right. Okay, so we're going to have a quick talk about scratch building coming up next.
Sure.
And I'm sure that, I've done some scratch building. I know Ian's done quite a bit, so it should be an interesting little segment. So we'll take a break and we'll be back very shortly. And welcome back on our little segment about scratch building. So this is something that I've done in bits and pieces and parts. I've never done a complete model from complete scratch build, but I've certainly done scratch building to sort of either replace parts that have broken or lost to the carpet monster, or when I'm doing sort of modifications to a particular kit.
Yep.
And like replacing masts on ships, I'll do it with some brass tubing, for example, and that type of thing. But I've never actually built a complete scratch model.
Kit, yep.
Yeah. What about you, Ian?
Oh, years and years ago, probably about 20, 25 years ago, I decided one day to make myself like a little robotic mosquito, which I based off I think a 1/12 scale Trans Am side mirror, and then built all little bits up around it, and legs and
very
eyes
nice.
and that, and made me wings. And today's standard, it was pretty ordinary, but back then I was really happy with it, and that's all got me interested. That, well, hey, you can make your own stuff.
Yeah. Bit of evergreen and...
Yeah, evergreen, brass wire,
Yep.
whatever I could find my hands on.
Yep.
LEDs,
Yep.
and yeah, no idea where it's gone. It's gone somewhere within all that time, but probably got broken up and lost.
Yeah.
But no, it was a fun thing. Nowadays, I just usually my main scratch building stuff I've been doing lately is for the USS England. Trying to get that to look as authentic as possible from the trumpeter kit. Building me, especially in 1 to 350 scale, you're really dealing with some very tiny parts.
Oh, you are, for sure.
I remember one part in particular is the torpedo crane. The kit's basically just a one-piece thing that's just a blob on top of a blob, and then actually had looked at some photos what they looked like, and they got little bracings and so forth. So
Also, it wasn't a blob.
no, it was actually quite a complicated looking thing, and it was quite complicated to build too, like making the little tiny rail for the actual crane section itself, and and then your bracing, which basically made out of stretched sprue, and less than a millimetre. But that was fun. I quite enjoyed doing it.
So plastic card's your friend in when you're building, scratch building.
Yeah.
What I like to do, if I get the opportunity to, certainly is you certainly need plans. So you need some detailed plans.
Yep.
And the best way, if you've got access to a photocopier, just scale the plans down to the scale you're
and
building.
work off that, yeah.
And just work off that. The other thing I like to do is also I'll make a mould to build it around. So, for example, if I'm doing, let's say, something simple like a wheelhouse, I might get some wood and shape that to the right size, just slightly underscale. And then around that wooden plug, I'll actually
build your walls.
Build my walls, glue them in place. So I've got something reference to sort of build them off. It's almost like building a jig, really, I guess you could say.
Yes, it would be.
And I find that quite successful doing it that way.
Yeah.
Although other times I'll just use the old eyeball Mark 1, and I've even been quite successful in that when I've lost parts and had to sort of, resculpt something.
Yes.
And that's the other thing too with things like your old sprues and all that sort of stuff. Always keep them handy because it's amazing what you can build out of leftover sprues, and because you get some really interesting shapes from the sprue gates and the runners and all that type of thing.
Yep.
And once I've completed the model, I try to keep the same sprue from the same manufacturer because they tend to use stick to the same formula for the plastic styrene that they're using. So it just makes it a lot easier when you're sort of building.
Yes. Yeah, it keeps it all, as you said, all the same plastic.
Yep.
Yep.
Brass, when I'm using photo etch, I'll keep some of the brass sprues from that as well.
All right, yep.
And again, I'll hang on to them because you can use them to sort of make little intricate brass pieces as well.
Like hatches or so forth?
Yeah, that's right. That sort of thing as well. But just even sort of little bits like, I guess you could say like little, not only doors, but like handles and that type of stuff.
Yep.
I know a lot of the guys when they're doing stuff in tanks in 1/35th scale, they'll use like rungs. They'll get a bit of wire and bend that round. So copper wiring is another good thing.
Yes. Which
is your friend. A lot of guys hang on to them and got a whole sort of little box full of different parts that they use for that type of stuff.
Yep. And you get those people also do their own photo etch.
Yeah, now that'd be something interesting to get into, wouldn't it?
Yeah, creating your own photo etch.
Yeah, I've read up. There's lots of YouTubes as to how to do that. I don't think it's something I'd want to. And you need a good computer and a good printer so you can sort of print out.
Yeah, then you got to get your chemicals and.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too hard to get. It would just be a bit fiddly.
I think so.
I think I'm a bit too lazy. I'll tend to go actually buy something that's already been produced.
But usually in that case, it's stuff that isn't produced.
Yeah, that's right. So with brass rod, I don't tend to solder it at all. I'll tend to glue it. Mm-hmm. Have you tried soldering brass at all yet?
Not yet.
Yeah.
I'm all set up for it, but actually taking the plunge, not as yet. I've been watching a few tutorials online, and actually it doesn't look that difficult, but it's just a matter of just sitting down one day and just starting it.
Yes, absolutely.
Getting once you get a start, then you go forwards. But it's actually getting that initial start is always the am I going to do it or am I not going to do it? Is it going to work? Am I going to stuff it up?
Yeah. And there's plenty of books out in the market that you can get on scratch building as well.
I know there's a few. There's one I bought with me today. That's the which brand's that? That's a Schiffer book on scratch building. Which I purchased years ago, and it's absolutely fantastic. It goes through all the stages of like casting, photo etching, building from start to finish. It's got like some big names in there like Peter Cook and George Lee. Now, these guys are prolific. I remember George Lee. He's passed away now, unfortunately, but it was amazing what that guy could produce. And it's all scratch, but all large scale aircraft and.
Yep.
And these are things they built for museums.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or private contracts and so forth. And just the work in there is just really whets the appetite and makes you going to, one day I'll do this.
Yes. Yep. And in fact, our very first episode, we had Russ French on from up in New South Wales. Yeah. And he's somebody who can build from scratch. And I don't know how he does it. It just staggers me. But he gets the plans and and starts from scratch, I guess, and builds it up, and off he goes.
Yeah, exactly.
But he does some of the model kits he does, because he obviously it's his business, but he's built if you go to his website, and the name escapes me at the moment, I'll endeavour to get it before the end of the show, or you can listen back on episode 1. But he's built bridges. He built a lot for the military contractors. They'll want a model of a particular tanker or a ship or a missile or something like that, and he just goes off and makes it from scratch. It's just his work's just astounding and amazing. And I wish I was at that level.
Don't we all, Dave? Don't we all?
Yeah, but most of my stuff is I've never built a complete model from scratch, as I said. Most of my stuff's been just repairs or modifications. And a lot of the people who actually do that, they'll then go and make copies of the part that they've made, and they'll even sell it in a very cottage industry sort of style as well.
Doing like resin reproductions.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There's a big market out there for aircraft carriers, although 3D printing is now sort of catching up with that, and they're really sort of closing the gap on that segment. So
you notice that when you go on like Shapeways, and you have a look at their range, you just type it. Like you're a naval modeler, you just type in 1 to 350 scale, and
you get lost.
Probably 20 or 30 pages, if not more.
You could be there for hours going through it. You go, oh, gee, that looks good.
So I remember what I think it was the USS Lexington. They've got like 3 or 4 different superstructures.
Yeah,
all the variations
as the ship went through a life. Yeah, but even the USS Enterprise, the nuclear carrier. I mean, the island went through about 3 or 4 different iterations. I mean, you had the beehive, and then you had the current shape that, well, until she was paid off just recently, the current shape. But that's gone through about 3 different iterations. The sponsons on the side of the carrier where they have different gun platforms. I mean, they've been sort of
chopping and changing them
for the whole life of the ship. Yeah, and when you look at those aircraft carriers, they've gone through 50 years of service. There's going to be a lot of changes on them.
Oh yeah, and the 3D printing now is really nice. You get some really nice stuff. I've gotten a few items off Shapeways, and I remember my last purchase was some, I think it was Mark 6 or Mark 8 depth charges. Yeah. 1 to 350 scale. You get them in like a block of 60. And they're absolutely fantastic. All you do is just paint them.
What about the finish on them, though? Have you still got that sort of...
No. Beautiful smooth finish.
Smooth finish. Yep. As if it was injection molded.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
I remember the first thing I purchased off them was a dinosaur, of all things. And... just the finish on this thing, it just blew me away. And it was hollow. It was as light as a feather because it was hollow inside.
Yeah.
But just the detail was just amazing. So that's the one thing that, will basically, I can see in the future taking people away from scratch building is just because these printers are getting cheaper and cheaper every year.
Yeah.
And people are now more computer savvy, so being able to use a CAD program.
I don't know about computer savvy. We've had all sorts of technical difficulties here today.
Well, you got to remember, we're old fellas, Dave. Eh?
We are old fellas.
We've been around. We need someone young like Julian to sort out our technical difficulties.
Oh, even I'm not that young, really.
I mean, just such a mistake that I had. So I had the one of the computers we got here in the studio. I couldn't get it going, and what I had was the output from the monitor. I had it going into the motherboard, not into the
video card.
Showing your age, Dave.
I'm just going to say that I didn't have my glasses on, so that was why I couldn't.
Oh yes.
Yep. No worries. We'll go with that one, Dave.
The other thing with scratch building too, a lot of guys used to scratch build because the models just weren't available.
Yes.
And if they're interested in a particular subject matter, they'd just go off and actually, produce it themselves, get some plans, and off they'd go. These days, I still say we're in the golden age of modelling now. Though interestingly, I did see somewhere recently where people are saying our hobby's in decline, which I refute. But people used because there's so many kits now available in sort of different scales and And now that the manufacturers are moving away from mainstream kits into those really sort of out there kits, as we were talking about earlier on with what's new with the Japanese tank and the British tank. I mean, it's getting to the point now where almost anything you could wish for is pretty much out there now.
And or will be on its way.
Or will be on its way.
Yep.
Albeit it's probably not in the scale you want. I know some of the ship kits, for example, a lot of the stuff comes out in 1/700 of really obscure sort of model. I think you grabbed one on, it was a submarine tender or something in 1/700 scale.
Oh, no, it was 1350.
1350 was it?
Yeah, that was the, I can't remember, it was a German First World War submarine tender.
Yeah.
And
very obscure subject, but out in 1350 scale, was
Yep.
it? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
all resin and brass, like all the superstructures, all brass, and
Yep.
it's a beautiful looking kit. I've seen a couple built online, and I thought, and it was going for a good price, so I'll grab that.
Yep. So Evergreen is the choice to
Pretty
use.
much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you can get
Evergreen.
them, although it's a bit expensive, isn't it, for really what you're getting?
Yeah, it's not cheap. It's definitely not cheap. Evergreen, you can go do some Evergreen shopping and pretty much empty your wallet and pretty quickly.
I always keep some basic sort of Evergreen sizes of
same here. Rods, tubing,
flat sheets,
Yep.
and it's just always sitting there. So if I need to do something or patch something up or build something, immediately it's just there ready to go. And
because I know some modelers that actually do their own vac forming, but they do like plunge mold where they heat the clear styrene up, have like a mold of the canopy and heat it up, and then just basically shove it over it and get the right shape. Takes a few goes before you get a good one, but at least then you're going to have a mortar scale thickness canopy.
Yes, yeah.
Because that's the problem, especially when you go 172 scale. You look at some of these injection molded canopies, and in scale they'd be nearly a foot thick. And plus, we've all been through that stage building an aircraft model where you accidentally break the glazings, and rather than go out and buy a new kit, just do the glazings, you just vac form that beast.
Well, I've got to take my hat off to, and we should really talk about vac forming at some stage into the future, but anybody who builds a vac form kit, I've just got to take my hat off to them because, I mean, that's hard work.
It's a lot of work, yeah.
It's hard work.
I've got a couple in the stash that I've had for years and years. I think it's a Japanese light bomber. I think I'm trying to remember what one it was, and I know I've got a Beaufort.
Yep.
Because no one makes a good 48 scale Beaufort, especially a DAP Beaufort.
Yeah.
Now that'd be something. Any of you manufacturers out there, make me one.
Okay, anything else on scratch building you can think of before we think about wrapping it up?
Well, basically, my only thing with scratch building is, be prepared to really push your skills.
Yeah, have a go.
Have a go. Sometimes you can surprise yourself. I always find that with the hobby, you start something, you think, oh, this is going to be beyond me, and next thing you know, your concentration's just gone like to the size of a teacup. Where you just concentrating that hard, the hours go past, and you just sit back and go, oh, I've done it.
You've done it, yeah. Don't be afraid to have a crack.
That wasn't that hard as I thought it'd be.
Yeah, don't be afraid to have a crack.
Exactly.
All right, well, that pretty much brings us up to the show and the end of 2017 and Season 1. So I'd like to wish all our listeners out there a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yep.
Ian and Julian, thanks very much for being here this year.
No problem.
No worries, Dave.
And we'll be back in early 2018 for the next instalment of On the Bench. So see you later, Ian.
See you, Dave, and see you. Goodbye to all the listeners.
And see you later, Julian.
Yep, see ya.
Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.